Today's show is going to be a little bit different. Today's show is going to be very different, actually. Something has happened to me in the last couple of days that I don't really talk about. I don't talk about the stuff that happens to me in the press. I don't talk about people doing whatever it is they're going to do. You know, I try to keep most of my personal life separate because that's not really your burden. That's not really your responsibility. I'm here for you. It's not the other way around. And too many hosts on TV and on networks all over the place don't understand that the audience is not here to be your emotional support animal as the host of a program, whether it's a podcast or a television show or whatever. You're there to entertain. You're there to inform. But every once in a while, things happen that need to be discussed. And today is one of those days. Now, before I even get into any of this story that I've been talking about on all the social media apps, some of you may know where this is going. That's okay. It took over social media over the last couple of days. And before I even start any of it, I want to be clear. This story that I'm talking about today is not about me. It is not about my job. It is not about people protesting me having a job. It has nothing to do with that. Today's story is about bad journalism. Not lazy, not partisan, bad, low-class journalism. Unskilled journalism. Now, if you're local, if you're from Long Island, you know that there's hit pieces written about me in local papers and in Facebook groups and all this crap. It's been going on for years. They did it to me and Sean. They did it about the group. They did it about what we stood for, the vaccines and the COVID restrictions and the lockdowns. They did it all. We ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center list because we crossed the teachers union. Whatever. None of that has any impact on me whatsoever. And I try not to bring my personal life onto the show. I really do. Even when sometimes, like yesterday, I receive messages like this one from random people telling me that they hope that my 12-year-old niece is raped and killed. Apparently, they think that is the correct punishment for having an uncle who believes in, like, low taxes and freedom. This person messages me every day and knows who I am because they continue to comment on my failed stand-up comedian career. I never had a career in stand-up comedy. I did it like 15 times because it was fun. But I don't burden the audience with these sorts of things because they come at me so frequently. And I want to be clear, I am not alone. Okay? Your favorite host, your favorite show, your favorite Twitter account, people you follow, we all deal with this. Only the left-wingers go out there and cry foul when these sorts of things happen. But something happened the other day that I would like to discuss. My local newspaper, Newsday, which used to be a reputable organization. I remember there was a time about 20 years ago, I was in Newsday as a high schooler for, I think it was a lacrosse game. I scored like 4 goals or something. And I remember it being like a really, really big deal. I was really excited about it. And now, times have changed. Things have changed. Well, Newsday decided that they were going to publish an article. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Publish an article about a, quote, online petition urging the firing of controversial right-wing group from a part-time job. And I said, all right, nobody cares. I mean, sure, it took 3 days for this reporter to write a 500-word piece like he's Kerry Bradshaw. Sure. Whatever. These things happen. That didn't bother me. It didn't even bother me when they posted it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook And you're more than welcome to go on any of those social media apps and see the unbelievable amount of support headed my way. Feel free to do it. That didn't annoy me. That didn't bother me. What bothered me was 3 days later when they posted it again. Because it turns out the only way for this outlet to gain any sort of traction with the online audience is to talk about me. That is what bothered me. That is what really set me off. So what we're going to do today is we are going to discuss bad journalism. Because if this is happening on a local level here on Long Island, look, if you don't live in like downstate New York, Westchester, Rockland, New York City, Long Island, you've never heard of Newsday, you would never read it, it has no impact on your life. If you do live here on Long Island, it's probably lining your bird cage. But we're going to talk about crappy journalism and what bad journalism leads to. I've already showed you the lovely messages in which I receive, where people want my 12-year-old niece to be raped and killed. These come in every day. Every day. From an account that definitely knows who I am. And does that scare the crap out of me? Yes, it does, and I don't really like to talk about it, but we're going to talk about this so-called online petition that is being circulated urging me to be fired. Now, why are we going to talk about it? Because this is the problem with media. Because if these things are happening on a local level here on Long Island, they're happening everywhere. They're happening on ABC. They're happening at the Dallas Morning News. They're happening at the Boston Globe. They're happening at the New York Times, at the LA Times. They're happening at NBC. And they're happening in your local papers. Now, let's discuss this online petition that was submitted to my job ordering me to be fired. We're going to read the top line of this article, give you a sense of the way this is being broken down. An online petition with more than 1,000 signatures urges local officials to remove the founder of a controversial right-wing group from a part-time job. Let's break 1,000 signatures, online petition. That's heavy stuff. Until you realize that this online petition, no one has seen it. No one has ever seen the petition. It's like aliens or Bigfoot. It's out there somewhere, but we don't really know where it is. A local civic group, Concerned Citizens for Smithtown, local civic group, a civic group that does not have any 501c3 paperwork, doesn't have any 501c4 paperwork, has no LLC paperwork, doesn't have a website, doesn't even have a Facebook page, civic group, organized an online petition getting me fired. And Newsday decided it was going to publish this in not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 different places over a part-time job. So I decided, what the hell? I'll go look up the petition and see what I can find out about it. Now, it's on change.org, which means it was circulated on Reddit, the bottom scourge of the internet. And I did a little digging. And I decided that what I would do is I would look up some of the people who signed this petition, because quite frankly, I'd like to know the people that are very, 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 very upset with me. So I read one of the comments on the post, and I'm going to read it to you right now. I'm literally shaking as I'm writing this. This feels like a hate crime. It should be a crime that someone as hateful as Kevin Smith is allowed to get paid on the taxpayer dime. This man who had the audacity to slap a young, gentle Nazi in New York City, of all places. What happened to freedom of speech? It's an assault on the decency and common sense. The doctor had to up my Prozac because of all this Republican nonsense. It's an outrage. I never imagined the town of Smithtown would send me into a full-blown panic attack. What has this country come to? Now, this might sound kind of odd to you. And one would assume that it does sound a little bit odd, because when I looked up who signed the petition to get me fired, it was signed from Ligma Balls. Ligma Balls. I don't know if Ligma lives in the town of Smithtown or if he might reside somewhere else on Long Island, but just know, Mr. Balls, I take your signed petition very, very seriously. Also, Ligma Balls, I would also like to make sure that I do not offend your brother, who also signed this petition, Harry Balls. That's right, I've offended the Balls brothers. I offended Ligma and Harry Balls. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because what this article shows in Newsday is that they did not even attempt to find out if this petition was real or not. They didn't even attempt to find out if the organization that started the online petition, which was circulated on Reddit, was real or not. How do I know that? Well, we've got this signed by the brothers, Harry and Ligma Balls. Also, we've got the petition signed by good Irishman, Itch McCrotch. Itch McCrotch signed this petition. I want to just apologize to Mr. McCrotch. But, of course, it doesn't stop there. The two, actually, you guys might not know this or not, two of the more famous people on Long Island that signed this petition to get me fired are, of course, Ben Dover and Holden McGroin. Holden McGroin, very famous op-ed writer in the town of Smithtown. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. But look, guys, what you have to understand is that Change.org makes a very clear point here, that they help verify signatures are from real people. Now, one more time, just in case you missed it, the petition that was signed to have me fired from my job was signed by two people named Ben Dover and Holden McGroin. Also, Harry Balls and his cousin, Ligma Balls. Now, why am I telling you this? Obviously, I'm having some fun at the expense of our local paper. I promise you, these are all real. You can go on change.org, you can type in my name, and they will immediately pop up. They will immediately pop up. So, why am I doing this? Well, I don't like to make things about myself. I really don't. When you go to journalism school, one of the first things they teach you is that if you're going to report the news, you should never make yourself the story. I know I only went to Stony Brook Journalism School. I didn't go to one of the fancy ones like Columbia, like the guy who wrote this article. Really, that's a serious thing. Columbia Journalism School, gold standard of journalism here in America. The author wrote this. So I had an idea. Since there's really nothing I can do about this, Newsday can publish 1, 2 articles about me and grift off the social media following, and there's nothing I can do about it. But there's something you can do about it. There is something you can do about it. Now, I'm going to put this on the screen. You do with this what you will, because I want to make something very clear. I think that local reporting is literally the most important kind of reporting there is when it's done correctly. If you guys remember back 25 years ago when the Boston Globe exposed the Spotlight scandal, local reporting led to a worldwide global movement against sex abuse inside of the Catholic Church. That is what good local reporting can do. And quite frankly, the stuff we do here, talking about Democrats all over the country, or Fox News right now talking about a plane crash at LaGuardia Airport, which is a big deal. But if you don't go to LaGuardia, if you don't live in Queens, if you have no intention of flying to New York, really, it has absolutely no impact on your life. But a shoddy construction contract, a corrupt politician, things going on in your local school district, these are things that impact your actual life. And I think local reporting is so undervalued in this world. I really do. And it needs better coverage. For example, instead of covering me with a bullshit online petition that no one has ever seen before from an organization that doesn't exist, Newsday, for example, could cover the story about, I don't know, the former county legislator who was caught trading sex for prescription drugs to teenage girls who's about to get his medical license back. They could be covering that story. They could be covering the fact that almost no one can afford here on Long Island to live in the town in which they grew up in, which is why there is a mass exodus of people. And if you should feel so inclined over the course of the next several hours, next several days, take your time. Don't all do it at once. Feel free to pick up that phone and dial 631-843-2700 and ask Newsday why they felt it necessary to write a story, publish it 5 times about me, a bullshit petition that doesn't exist, signed by a guy named Ligma Balls, and then publish it again. And I mean this. People have called me like, defamation, all that. No. There's nothing I can do about it. But you can. And I'm sorry that I even have to bring this up to this audience. Because I don't want to make the story about me. I really don't. 1 hit piece bad. 2 hit piece bad. 1 post, 2 posts, 3 posts, 4. I'm going to respond. And I'm going to do it in my way. And you guys have been supportive of us. Some of you have been around for more than 5 years. Some of you were around before I even met Sean at that first event in Copeg. Before I even knew who Sean Farish was. Before the loud majority even existed. So don't do it right now. Because I want you to stay on the show. But at some point today, the number's right there. Ask them if this story is really what best serves the people of Long Island. Because I don't care if you're a biased reporter. I don't. CNN exists. Fox exists. Newsmax. I'm a biased reporter. I admit my biases. I don't care if you're biased, and I don't care if you're an activist. I care if you suck at your job. And you published a story about a petition that doesn't exist. Signed by a guy named Ligma Balls. Because you know what that tells me? You didn't even try. You didn't even try to verify any of this. Seriously. Go on the Newsday Facebook page. There's 2 stories. You'll see them. The comments overwhelmingly support me. But if you look up the article on Newsday, there's 3 quotes from people who hate me. Go figure. One of them, the head of the Democratic Party. I have a feeling, and look, maybe I'm biased. Okay. But I have a feeling that if I were a registered Democrat, not only would post 4 not have happened, not post 3, not post 2, not post 1, but the article wouldn't even have been written and no one would have even cared. And why? Because 9 people hate me? Somehow I'll live. And I don't want to make the story about me. I really don't. And I hate that I have to do this. But I've been sitting on this. One local reporter wrote a story, and I mean this, wrote a story about me where in 2 pages, he got 16 facts wrong. 16 facts. Mind-blowing. You couldn't get that much stuff wrong, Dave Ambro, if you tried. That's like Game of Thrones fan fiction. But he did it. I mean it. I've got what they handed in here. There's no signatures on it. So, feel free to use that number. And when you do, remember something. The girl working at the news desk who's going to be answering this phone is probably some college sophomore who has no idea this is coming. So please be kind. It's not her. It's the dipshit who wrote the article and did no sourcing, no fact-checking. The entire point of this article was not to get to the truth. It was simply to hurt me. Simply to hurt me and those people who have stood behind me. That's all this was. And that's why we're talking about it. You want an opinion? You don't like my politics? That's fine. No issue there. That's what America's all about. But when you maliciously slander people to try to hurt me, that's just not something I'm going to put up with. And I don't care who does it. I don't care if it's the New York Times or the Washington Post or some local rag like Newsday. Because you used to be a reputable paper. There was a time in this country where Newsday was the fourth most sold newspaper in America. In America. It was the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, and Newsday. Bigger than the Miami Herald. Bigger than the Dallas Morning News. Bigger than the Boston Globe. And now you've become a laughingstock. Why? It's because of things like this. Do better. Because you're not going to hurt me. You're not. We're all going to laugh at you. I do like your Sudoku puzzles, though. They're pretty good. They're tough on Thursdays, if I'm being totally honest with you. Guys, we're going to get to the actual news now because, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of talking about myself, which, if you know me, it's probably not a sentence you've ever heard me say before. But we're going to get to the actual news in 1 second because there's a lot going on in the news today. Markwayne Mullins has just been sworn in as the DHS secretary. Democrats in Illinois blame President Trump for their sanctuary policies that led to a freshman student being killed. More than 50% of American truck drivers can't read English. No big deal there. And the Supreme Court is taking up a giant case that is going to change elections in this country forever. So, guys, I do want to thank you for allowing me to go on that 24-minute diatribe about the problems with local media. You know, if you should feel so inclined. Guys, we'll be back in 1 second. Before we do that, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com and use promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. I wanted to make sure I got that out of the way before I pop the live chat up onto the screen. How is everybody doing today? What's happening? I want to shout out everybody watching in all the chats. Kathy Jen, Kitty Den, how are you? TPH, what's happening? Elsie Murphy, very good. Lisa Murals, well, oh, hey, Lisa, what's going on? Very good. Donna, what's happening? Andrea, very good. We got a big crowd here today. How is everybody doing? Alex Ann, what's happening? Callie, how are you? Callie jumped on this bright and early this morning. Make sure you guys go follow her on Instagram if you want to laugh your ass off. If you want to laugh your ass off, go follow her. Always a good time. Once again, I want to thank you all for letting me go on that ridiculous diatribe. And you know what? While we got the live chat up here, why don't I just leave that right there? You know, let me move that over a little bit while I say hello to everybody. While I say hello to everybody in the chat. Beth, how are you? Goose, what's happening? Annette Smith, thank you so much. Jumped on, said you needed us. Thank you so much, because we are a family here, and we stick together. That's it. How is everybody doing today? Very good. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place, and feel free to write down that phone number that's directly there on the screen. Once again, don't do it all at once. Don't do it all at once. Spread it out. Some people call now. Some people call in an hour. Maybe do it after dinner. Have some fun with it. Wait, what's that noise? Oh, sorry. I could hear the phone ringing right now over at Newsday. Cheers, babe. Giddy up. Let's go. So let's dive right on in because there is news to get to today. After oh shit. What did I do? There we go. Turned off the damn camera instead of the live chat. There you go. Hit the receipt. That's what happens when I get flustered. That's what happens when I get flustered. So let's dive right on in because there is some big stuff happening today in the world of media. We were talking about it the other day. Speaking of crappy journalism, CNN is set to lay off more than half of their employees this week as CEO Mark Thompson's digital overhaul begins. CNN is set to lay off staffers this week as new boss Mark Thompson presses ahead with sweeping digital overhauls, with deeper cuts looming as potential merger reshapes the future of the network. Warner Brothers Discovery owned the Warner Brothers Discovery owned outlet is set to cut about 100 staffers as it moves to modernize its 3,000 person workforce. 3,000 people work at CNN. 7 work at this network. 7. I think Bongino has like 4 people who work for him. CNN has 3,000. Do you know how many Anderson Coopers you could hire at his salary? The cuts are expected to hit key roles not tied to growth areas, marking CNN's latest move away from its cable roots and towards the digital-first future. Yes! Yes, towards a digital-first future. That's a really soft way of saying that Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper will soon be hosting a podcast. Because I got news for you. There is nothing in the world that people are thinking of. You know what? An hour of Anderson Cooper every night, just not enough. I'd rather hear more from the perpetual Nepo baby, because for those of you who don't know, Anderson Cooper did not get to CNN or 60 Minutes or New Year's Eve on his own merits. He did it because he's the sole heir to the remains of the Vanderbilt fortune. Real by his bootstraps kind of thing. You know, direct descendant of maybe the 3rd or 4th richest person to ever be in America. No big deal. Pulled himself up by his bootstraps. That old Anderson Cooper there. The move follows a prior round of cuts under Thompson, who eliminated more than 6% of CNN's workforce just last year as part of the ongoing effort to shift the network away from its legacy cable model and towards digital growth. Well, I tell you what, if CNN's cutting the cord and moving over to digital, then some people who own newspapers could be in serious trouble. But this is what happens. You know why? Because people are sick of being lied to. They're sick of being lied to. They're sick of being gaslit. On this show, we show you all the time that the only reason why anybody watches CNN in the first place is so that people like Joe Borelli and Brianna Lyman and Lydia Moynihan and Scott Jennings can go off the top rope on the gaggle of idiots that they have on CNN panels. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, they're really running out of talent here because Scott Jennings is able to put, I don't even know who the hell this guy even is, Miles Taylor. I don't know who Miles Taylor is. He's probably one of those guys who used to work in the Trump administration and then got fired and then got really mad, so he decided to work over on CNN. Scott Jennings asked him a pretty basic question, putting him into a corner where he was swiftly able to go off the top rope and come down right on top of Miles. What's his name? It's not Miles Teller. Miles Teller is the actor. I don't know what the hell this guy's name is. Check this out.
All three of us ragged on the Obama administration for giving cash to the Iranian regime to reach a nuclear deal. I think it was $400 million in pallets. What Donald Trump just did on lifting sanctions on Iranian oil
that's already at sea
is 10 times as much money
first off,
likely to the Iranian regime. 10 times as much money. He's giving cash to our enemies while Obama.
Miles, do you think that the Ayatollah prefers his life under Obama or under Trump?
Look,
Probably Obama, yes?
the Ayatollah's dead.
There you go.
You heard it here first.
Here's the thing. I think the real
Scott Jennings is going to do great when he gets his own show. He's going to do great. I mean, a very obvious trap. What's up, Right Side Rebel? How are you? Watching on X. Thanks for coming on in for the. Thanks for jumping on in. Scott Jennings is going to do great. It's going to be really funny, too, when Barry Weiss is the news editor over there at CNN. That ought to be hilarious. Firstly, it'll set the anti-Israel people off into a tizzy, but it'll even set the left-wingers off as they begin firing all of their useless staff, like Jake Tapper and Abby. Well, they'll probably keep Abby Phillip because she went to Harvard, and she's oppressed in America. Now, some news outlets are actually covering things that people care about, like, I don't know, the fact that more than 50% of American long-haul truck drivers can't read English. Now, look, some people out there can't read. That's okay. I'm sure there are corn farmers out there in Iowa who probably can't read the first page of a Harry Potter book, but they're doing their damnedest to feed the American people. However, if you have no understanding of English whatsoever and you see a big-ass sign that says no U-turn, it would probably be helpful if you knew what the sign said. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a controversial right-wing group leader.
So good morning from Florida. Yeah, it was a busy day on the interstates here. You can check it out behind me on I-10 here in North Florida. We can tell you that thousands of truckers move through this interstate every single day. It goes all the way from Jacksonville to Los Angeles in California. But the DOT and also Highway Patrol here in Florida tell me a lot of these truckers' bills should not be on the road. Why? Because they say they are in the country illegally in the first place. They got their hands on a commercial driver's license, but they should have never had. And it can be dangerous, the consequences, and also deadly.
The ones that we are targeting are the ones who are not doing the right thing. Those are the ones that need to be off the roadways. They're the ones that are putting families at risk.
So we went on patrol with DOT Administrator Derek Bars, who's leading the crackdown with state police. Bars served as a trooper with the Florida Highway Patrol for years before this job, so he knows how it goes. He showed us just how quickly teams of these truckers are out there and how quickly they can find those who are breaking the law. So it comes after several deadly crashes that police say were caused by truckers who were in the country illegally with these CDLs that investigators say they should have never obtained. Back in August, police say an illegal migrant from India pulled a U-turn on a Florida turnpike. He blocked the road, you remember this, and he's charged with killing 3 innocent people. DOT tells me thousands of truckers have been taken out of service nationwide for failing safety inspection. But some companies just rack up the violations bill and then they change their name. They're called chameleon carriers. So the Trump administration's going after enforcing existing laws. Like what? Well, speaking English. It's a requirement for truckers. Police say many cannot read basic road signs or speak the language, something we saw firsthand. Watch this.
How good is your English? Entiendo algo poquito. Can you speak any English? No, don't speak no English.
Okay, so didn't speak English, he said. This trucker failed the test. He was taken out of service right away. He didn't know what the road signs meant. People might think, what's the big deal? They're just behind a big rig. Why do they need to speak English? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say, number one, it's the law. It's been the law for a long period of time. That it's a safety issue. If there was a crash or something like that, I would want to make sure that that driver would know how to respond, slow down for upcoming traffic or a crash that has happened ahead.
And that's what was most shocking to me, just that they didn't know what the road signs meant. Like, no U-turn, wrong way. Like, they didn't have a clue. And the troopers that we talked to out here, Bill, for Highway Patrol said it's half of the truckers that come through their way stations that they say don't speak English. So it's something we're going to keep an eye on, Bill.
And at 60 miles an hour, it's...
At 60 miles an hour, it's a damn missile. It would be safer to strap their ass to the back of an Acme rocket and put them in a slingshot and chase the Roadrunner down the street than it would be to put them in a big rig. But what do I know? And look, for the Long Islanders here, we all know that every single year there's like 5 or 6 trucks that go on the Southern State or the Northern State or the Wantagh or the Meadowbrook Parkway and get their big asses stuck underneath an overpass because they can't read the sign that says no trucks. Am I wrong? Long Islanders in the chat, light it up. It happens all the time. Amazon packages strewn about all over the northern state. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's eggs or shampoo. A couple years ago, a beer truck went under an overpass. Is it an overpass or an overpass? Who the hell really knows? Went under one of them, and there was just Coors Light all over the damn highway. Needless to say, the majority of the neighborhood, I think it happened in Rockville Center, the majority of the neighborhood came out and decided that they were just going to drink it all right off the street. I'm only kidding, Rockville Center. Not really. The Long Islanders know. But maybe that's why people still tune into Fox News, because they're actually talking about things that people care about. They're talking about subjects that matter to the American people. For example, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a little story about a town in New York that you've never heard of before. A town in New York called Yorktown Heights. A bougie, mostly white, upper middle class neighborhood just north of New York City. Now, there are 2 people that are from this town, Yorktown Heights. There are 2 people from the town. One of them, you'll know, because a few days ago, she was murdered by a Venezuelan migrant who was in the country illegally outside of Loyola University in Chicago. Young girl, 18 years old, from Yorktown Heights. It's a wild story. You would think, if someone was so senselessly murdered in your hometown, from your hometown, went to the same high school as you, and you're a member of Congress, you would think you would have something to say about it. But alas, we hear nothing from Yorktown Heights' most famous resident, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And why has AOC said nothing about it? Well, because there are 2 people from Yorktown Heights. One believes that illegal Venezuelan criminals should be allowed to roam free in America, and the other one was just murdered by one of them. So naturally, AOC's got nothing to say. Because, spoiler alert, she's not from the Bronx. I mean, it could be worse. The only thing worse than not having something to say about this particular matter would be to have something to say and look like a great big, as the French would say, Dumas. If you did have something to say and you were to look like a Dumas, your names would be Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker, whose sanctuary policy led to this Venezuelan migrant not being arrested, not being deported after an ICE detainer had been placed on him after he was arrested last year for shoplifting and then being questioned about it and doing this.
Today, in his first public comments on this tragedy, Pritzker was asked about his state's sanctuary policies, which the Gorman family blames for Sheridan's death at the hands of an illegal immigrant from Venezuela. And Pritzker instead tried to place the blame on President Trump.
I agree, there have been real failures. Those failures, of course, extend beyond the borders of Illinois. That's their national failures, a failure to have comprehensive immigration reform, a failure of the president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst.
It took Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson 5 days to acknowledge the murder of the 18-year-old college freshman. And when he was pressed about the role his policies might have played, he also blamed President Trump.
You know what the bigger threat to our public safety? It's illegal weapons that are being trafficked from bordering states that voted for Donald Trump. This president refuses to be held accountable, and he points the finger at everything and everyone else.
Because it's your fault. It's your fault, bro. It's your fault, Brandon Johnson. That's why there are people roaming around the city of Chicago right now, putting up stickers in bars saying that you're the worst mayor ever. By polling data, you're at 12%. Cancer polls higher than Brandon Johnson. And J.B. Pritzker actually thinks he's going to run for president. Kind of hard to run when you can't walk, but whatever. That's not really the point. Ask Chris Christie how that went. AOC, nothing to say, though. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine you're a member of Congress and you feel so strongly about a certain issue and someone from your high school is murdered for no reason. She wasn't in with the wrong crowd. She wasn't doing what she shouldn't have done. She wasn't like, that Chicago alderman who said she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh, yeah, that's right. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That wrong place was somewhere near a Venezuelan migrant criminal who decided to shoot her in the face for no reason. I guess that's technically the wrong place at the wrong time. Wasn't doing any of that. She was walking down the street on her way back to her dorm on St. Patrick's Day. But it's Trump's fault. Meanwhile, Trump's doing everything humanly possible to deport those people who would shoot a college freshman in the face for no reason, with no help from blue cities, with no help from blue governors, with active obstruction for political gain. I want to be clear. That young girl, Sheridan, is dead because of politics. She didn't overdose. She didn't, take an Adderall that was laced with fentanyl. She didn't do any of that. She's dead because J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are cowards. That's it. And Democrats have nothing to say on this issue. Almost every single problem in America right now can be blamed on Democrats attempting to regain power. Not principle, not morals, not none of that. Simply because Democrats refuse to allow President Trump to have any win whatsoever, even if it would save the life of college students in the cities that they claim to represent. I mean, I'm not splitting the atom here. I'm not, discovering plutonium. If Democrats allow Tom Homan and DHS to arrest illegal immigrants who are criminals, that young girl from AOC's high school is still alive today. She is. Loyola Chicago's a great school, man. She had a great future ahead of her. Unfortunately, now she'll become another statistic, like Laken Riley, or Rachel Morin, or Jocelyn Nungary. Time to reset the counter, everybody. How many days in America without an illegal immigrant killing a U.S. citizen? Zero. We got more to talk about in just 1 second. Before we get to that, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. If you're not familiar with, then let me introduce to you Armor Colostrum. Now, I didn't know what colostrum was up until a few years ago. I'd never even really heard of it. And then my wife turned me on to Armor Colostrum. And what colostrum does is it helps regrow your hair. Not going to lie, that's the reason that I started looking into it. But then I started noticing some other things that I could benefit from. I used to get acid reflux very badly. I used to bloat very badly. It felt like I was 10 or 15 pounds heavier than I was until I made Armor Colostrum a part of my everyday schedule. And now things have changed so very much. Let me introduce to you what Armor Colostrum actually does and what it looks like. In a study measuring immune cell response to toxin, Armor Colostrum performed 32% stronger and faster than other colostrum companies. 400 plus bionutrients activated in your life, in your body, to help regrow hair, strengthen your gut health, regrow your nails, toenails, and fingernails healthy, get rid of fungus, stop bloating, and more. And now you can get yours right now for up to $18 off each and every purchase at tryarmra.com. Promo code LFATV. Click the apply button once you've entered the code and watch your discount fall off. That is tryarmra.com/LFATV. Order now.
Guys, head on over to tryarmor.com and use promo code LFATV. That's tryarmor.com and use promo code LFATV so that they know we sent you. I mean, look, not for nothing, but Democrats may have gotten what they wanted by not funding DHS. Now you have ICE officers telling you to take your laptop out of your bag before you go through that little scanning machine at the airport. Instead of being in places like Chicago, arresting illegal immigrant Venezuelan criminals who shoot young girls in the face. Remember, guys, we're not safe as a nation if I'm allowed to bring my own water on a plane. Sure, 5 million, 10 million, 15, 20 million illegal immigrants who we have no idea who they are could be part of Iranian sleeper cells like the guys who decided to commit terrorist attacks all over the country following taking out the Ayatollah of Iran. They could be them. But the real problem in America when it comes to safety is the fact that you may bring too much toothpaste onto a plane. You might, your bottle of cologne may be 3.7 ounces. Huh, Lord. Or even worse, perhaps your bag might be 51 pounds. No. You can bring water onto a plane. You just have to make sure you buy it from in the inside, where a ham sandwich costs $47 for no reason. Because that's what's really holding Americans back. Luckily, there's actually somebody running for governor in Illinois who seems to have his head on his shoulders. Here's Fox News.
Here's what the governor said in part. I think it was the third line in his statement. He says the Trump administration needs to stop politicizing heinous tragedies and instead focus on real solutions like reinstating federal funds to prevent violence that support our public safety efforts. If he got his wish with that statement there, would this murder not have happened?
Well, my heart breaks, first of all, for the family of Sheridan Gorman. Here in Illinois, we're faced with a trifecta of really bad policies. The truth is that Sheridan should be at school with their friends today. The truth is that the killer should never have been in this country. And here in Illinois, we have sanctuary state policy, which literally under J.B. Pritzker invites killers and people who are here illegally. We have the Trust Act, which under a governor's order can prohibit state and local law enforcement working with federal officials. And then finally, we have the Safety Act, which refuses a judge, unless you can pinpoint where a person who is specifically a danger to someone, you cannot hold them. So we have a problem here in Illinois. And
Can I offer one more thing?
Yes.
We just talked to Senator Fetterman about this 30 minutes ago. The Laken Riley Act, that's a federal law that requires you to hold this individual until the feds pick him or her up. will that happen?
I don't believe it will. It hasn't happened in the past. You know, that's the whole problem that we've been witnessing here in Chicago. This problem, these tragedies, J.B. Pritzker is 100% responsible for them. If he would simply allow state and local law enforcement to do their job, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today. We wouldn't be having some of the nonsense that took place several months ago. But J.B. Pritzker, unfortunately, seems to hate Donald Trump much more than he loves Illinois, and the people of Illinois deserve so much better.
Can you get, just in the 30 seconds I have left, what kind of coverage of this story?
That's right. That's right. I don't know if you guys caught that little nugget, but it is entirely possible that J.B. Pritzker does not hand this guy who just shot an American citizen in the face for no reason. It is entirely possible he does not hand that guy over to ICE to be removed from America, to be sent down to CCOT. You want to call it a foreign torture prison? Okay. I don't care. I don't care. See this? See that big old head right there with a big old face on it? That's face the guy doesn't care. I hope he goes there. And I hope they have to sit on the floor in those white boxer shorts like we keep seeing in all the videos. I hope he does. Let him rot down there. But the question remains, what can be done? What can be done? Because we know that voting in this country is all sorts of bananas. We know that. And we know people like J.B. Pritzker, that I believe he was just reelected governor, or he's running this year, whatever. I think he's running this year because he just put $25 million of his own money into his own campaign and then complained about Citizens United with no hypocrisy whatsoever. Turns out I guess you can do that when your cousin is best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Somehow J.B. Pritzker was able to get out of that one. I'm not really sure. Whatever. Not the point. Let's move on. But we know that voting is a sham in this country in so many different places, and we know that fraud happens left and right because almost everything that's wrong in this country, as I said before, is being held up because Democrats insist on letting illegal immigrants vote in our elections. Because that's what the holdup on the TSA funding is about. It is simply about not passing the SAVE Act, which would prohibit illegals from voting in our elections. Luckily, we are going to get a win. I think we may get a win on the election front very, very soon. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. You guys can use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. We've got the new spring collection coming out right now. Giddy up. Let's go. Guys, check that out today. Loudmajorityusa.com. And use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. You guys can pick up your little rebellion hand right here, spilling tea since 1773. It rhymes. I didn't even realize that. Look at that. Whoever made it's probably awesome. Whoever made the hat's probably awesome. Just saying. We may be getting a win on the election front very, very soon. Because the Supreme Court is set to hear a case coming up about counting ballots, counting mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day. Now, this is huge. This is huge. We know that mostly Democrats vote by mail because for some reason there are still people out there who won't take advantage of the opportunities presented to them when it comes to early voting, when it comes to mail-in voting. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. Lock your vote in, get it done early so that your vote can be counted. I'm really not understanding why we don't push that more on the Republican side. Democrats vote for 2 months. We vote on one day, and then we wonder why we lose. It's basic math. But it turns out the Supreme Court may be hearing a case that will, in the future, nullify all votes that come in after Election Day, which seems to make a hell of a lot of sense to me.
Can count ballots received after Election Day in a case that could have an impact in nearly 30 states that allow some kind of grace period. The RNC is challenging a Mississippi law that allows ballots to be counted up to 5 business days after Election Day if they're postmarked by Election Day. Justice Alito was among the biggest skeptics during Monday's arguments.
Independence Day, birthday, and Election Day, and they're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase Election Day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place.
But Justice Kagan questioned the impact of that logic on practices like early voting.
It seems to me it's a rule that prevents early voting, because you're basically saying there are two things that have to happen, and they have to happen on Election Day.
Meaning the casting of the vote and the receipt of that vote. But attorney Paul Clement, representing the RNC, said the argument is that the process be consummated or completed by Election Day. A number of the justices also raised the issue of the potential for the appearance of fraud when votes arrive and are counted after Election Day. And there wind up being shifts in vote totals and how that may impact public confidence.
It's all about public confidence. That's exactly what it's about. For example, I don't know how many votes come in after Election Day. I have no idea. I'm sure it varies election by election, state by state, all over the place. But you take the recent mayor election in something like Boca Raton, a place where people only live 6 months out of the year. I'm curious how many votes came in after Election Day that ended up being counted that led to a Democrat winning by one vote. One vote. Boca Raton hasn't had a Democratic mayor in like half a century. How many votes came in after Election Day? I don't know. Don't know. If I can find out who wins American Idol 45 minutes after the damn last person sings, why do I have to wait 5 years to figure out who the hell won the Iowa caucus? By the way, we still don't know who won that. In 2020, we have no idea who won the Iowa caucus. We gave it to Pete Buttigieg because he was the first one out of the gate that said, yeah, sure, it was me. I'm not asking a lot here. If I can find out who is the next American Idol in 45 minutes, I think I can figure out who the hell my next president is in at least that amount of time. Guys, it's 4 p.m. I want to thank everybody so much for letting me go on my ridiculous diatribe today. Once again, feel free. I'll leave it up there. Have yourself a field day. Be respectful while you're doing it. Why the hell not? Guys, I'll catch you live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.